everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Rubbin' is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show, brought to you by FantasyDonks.com, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know to start playing daily fantasy sports. I'm Sean Big Pop Williams.
I'm Jamie Learjet Lear.
And as always, we'll be bringing you our NASCAR action for this week's Goody Headache Relief Shot 500 from Martinsville Speedway. With the track breakdown will be Lear, but before we get there, we just want to talk a little bit about the price adjustment that we've seen this week. We've seen NASCAR adjust a lot of the top-tier drivers, especially on short tracks, bump their price. What we've also seen them do is lower the price on a lot of the middle and lower tier guys.
Yeah.
So not very hard to put together a lineup with studs and middle guys this week.
Quite a few of them.
Yeah.
Actually.
And as you'll see from our lineups coming up in a little while, it's fairly easy to get whoever you want this week. And so with that said, Lear, give us this week's track breakdown for Martinsville, buddy.
All right, brother. Thank you. That's definitely a mouthful. The Goody's Headache Relief Shot 500 from Martinsville Speedway. Martinsville Speedway is located in Ridgeway, Virginia. So we go from one of the longest tracks last week at the campingworld.com 500 at Talladega to the shortest track on the circuit here at the Martinsville Speedway. The track is 0.526 miles in length, 500 laps to get this one done. Average number of cautions here is 9. Obviously, with this being a short track, the front runners will spread out early, and there will be a ton of lapping traffic in this race, so there will be a lot of traffic going on with some of the guys up in the front. This is an oval track. It's 55 feet wide. There's 2 grooves here, a high groove and a low groove. The low groove is going to be the preferred line here at Martinsville. For fantasy NASCAR lineups, you're going to want to get the guys that obviously up front so they can, that lead laps and have fastest laps. Basically going to be the big difference maker this week.
Oh, absolutely.
In your fantasy lineup. So race is Sunday, November the 1st at 1:15 Eastern on NBCSN. Weather tomorrow, little chilly, 68 degrees, but they're definitely calling for morning showers with a 40% chance of precipitation all day. So there is a chance that they'll either start the race later on, or there's definitely going to be some stoppages during the race, but yeah.
Yeah, Goody that the Goodies race is probably range shortened. And when it comes to DFS, when you have a risk of range shortened races, there's not a whole lot you can do about it. If anything, I think
turns it into a lottery ticket.
Well, and I think if anything, that puts even more of a premium on the
guys up front.
With that said, I think it's time to get into the Burnin' Rubber segment.
Burnin' Rubber, baby!
And my first Burnin' Rubber guy is going to be a little bit different than what you're used to from me. I'm going with Eric Amarola for my first guy to burn rubber this week. He's $5,800, which is criminally underpriced in my opinion.
Yeah.
And if you look at his race log, almost every race he seems to be improving this year. It seems to be like this is his coming out party. Next year, I have him being a really good driver.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting to me about Amarola is that his improvement and how much he's been scoring in DFS has gone largely unnoticed by the DFS community.
Yeah.
He seems to be under-owned almost every week. I just think that his price tag is $1,000 cheaper than what it normally is this week with the price adjustment, which allows me to spend up. He has 1 top 5 here and would have had 2, but got caught speeding last race here and got knocked back to the back of the pack due to the penalty. He qualified 8th here, which some people would say is an overqualification. I could agree with that, but on a track like Martinsville, he's running fast enough and is up in that front pack. At 5,800, dude, I'm going to take a chance on a guy that has the ability to lead laps and be the fastest car out there, qualifying 8th and getting that front pack.
Oh, for sure. And with Martinsville here, it's only 30 miles an hour on the pit road, so it could easily, anybody of those drivers can make that mistake of getting that penalty. So, but I definitely like me some Amarola too. He's actually on my lug nut lineup as well. $5,800 is just like you said, a price that you just can't pass up for a guy with Amarillo's stature this year in DFS, because every week he's been averaging at least 30, 40 points. And it's
dude, and other than the crazy one race that he had negative points, his last 10 are all great points, like right where you need them to be for DFS. That's why I love Amarillo.
So it's definitely one of those guys you want to get on your lineup that, because with his price point, it's one of those guys that you can basically stack the top boys
absolutely,
and don't even look back at it. So.
And there are honestly several of those guys in that range. I just think Amarillo is the best of that group.
Yeah, I agree with you.
With that said, Lear, who's your first guy to burn some rubber this week?
My first burning rubber guy is Matt Kenseth this week. You know, got knocked out at the end of last week's Camping World 500 out of the race for the chase. So unfortunately, he will not be a contender anymore. Kenseth is $9,900 this week, so a little pricey, but he has dominated historically here at Martinsville. This past spring in the STP 500, Kenseth finished fourth after starting eighth. He led 11 laps in that race. He really likes these smaller tracks. He's raced here 31 times historically in his career, with 16% of those races with him finishing in the top 5. So that's a decent percentage there. He starts this week in the 18th spot. And, you know, he obviously wants to finish the 2015 campaign very strong. His average starting position here is 19.1 with an average finish of 14.4. So he's obviously got good positive place differential there. So I know he's kind of starting in the middle of the pack. A lot of people, my guess, will be off of him this week, just based off of the fact of last week not being the race for the chase anymore, his cost and where he's starting at. So he really likes these small tracks, and I'm all over Kenseth this week. So
yeah, I actually like the Kenseth play. It's an interesting one. We know how NASCAR's ownership percentage functions, and I just think people are going to jump off of him being that he's not in the chase. I think that analysis is spot on. And because of that, you might be able to get an advantage here at a 9.9 price tag, which he's below that entire grouping of the elites in the 10K.
He's been averaging over 10K, you know, obviously since he's been in the race for the chase.
But. Yeah, you're getting him at a discount this week. I love the potential here. And speaking of guys that dominate this track, that segues perfectly into my next burner rubber pick, which is Jeff Gordon. I know I've been all over it all year, but this one I'm really sure about. Like, guys, they've raised his price this week to $10,300. That's fine in my opinion, especially with the savings we can get on a guy like Amarillo. But he qualified 5th. He has 8 wins here at Martinsville. He has 7 poles on this track. He's finished in the top 5. 25 of 40 races here. That's a 62.5% chance that Jeff Gordon is going to finish in the top 5 after he qualified 5. I will take the 62.5% chance out of a driver any day of the week. Consider me sold on Jeff Gordon this week. Add all of that to this awesome narrative we've been talking about. He advanced to to this round of the chase. There's only one more cut to the championship round of the chase. Yeah. I think he gets it done. I know we've been saying he's due all year. Why not get it done here at Martinsville where you have an amazing track history? I know we made that argument for other races, but the reason why I love playing Jeff Gordon in DFS, man, is the guy almost never lets you down. Yeah. Like, even in his bad races, you're still getting really legit points out of him. It's not like he's a consistent guy that qualifies high and, like, finishes at the back of the pack. Even on a bad day, he's got to, finish 12th here? Sure. And probably still lead some laps and be the fastest car.
Yeah, it's a long race. I mean, 500 laps on this track it's a long 4 hours. But, you know, with him starting up there at the 5th position, it's guaranteed with how many, you know, stops that they're going to have as far as cautions and pit stops. I mean, his pit crew has been very good of late. They've had their issues through the year. But it looks like they've worked those kinks out, and you know, I like him too. For me, he's a little bit expensive. You know, being over at the $10,000 price point, $10,300. But no, I like your analysis here, man.
Yeah, I just dude, with this track history and his narrative, I just think he's a must-buy this week. Sure. And that segues perfect to another guy I think is a must-buy this week. You already told me who this pick is. But Lear, give me your next burning rubber guy, because this guy's on my lineup as well.
I'm going with the hottest guy on the Sprint Cup circuit right now, and that's Joey Logano. Logano is $10,500. So if I have a chance for Jeff Gordon or Joey Logano, I'm going to go ahead and spend up the additional $200 to get Logano. He's currently first in the race for the chase. He's starting on the pole again this week as he did in the spring of this year at the STP 500.
Mhm.
Like I said, he's the hottest driver right now on the Sprint Cup. He won last week at Talladega. Here at Martinsville, he's raced a total of 13 times, with this being his 14th. He's finished in the top 5 30% of the time here at Martinsville. He's never won here. I look for that to possibly change tomorrow. This past spring at the STP 500, he started on the pole, finished 3rd, and led 108 laps. So just imagine 108 laps in your pocket for DFS as far as points go. In his last 3 races here, he started 3rd, 2nd, and 1st with finishes of 4th, 5th, and 3rd. So even if he does not win this race, he's still going to be up there the whole entire 500 laps with potential of leading laps, fastest laps, and also with his points that he will earn with his finish position. So give me Joey Logano all day long. And I definitely love him this week.
I completely agree. And if you look at the numbers that you just broke down, it should tell you that Logano has a floor on this track of 50 points.
Yeah.
And his ceiling is close to 200 and something. And that is amazing that you can get that out of a driver. Like, I love the Logano play. The only thing we're different here is I don't think there's a reason to not spend up for him and Gordon. I think you can get both of them on the lineup without any problems. And that's what I ended up doing. But before we get into the...
Hopefully that's not going to cost us by not doing that.
Fair enough. But before we get into like the inner workings of our lineups this week, let's go ahead and do everybody's favorite segment, the Go to the Garage segment, where, guys, just in case you haven't seen the show before, going to the garage doesn't necessarily mean that we think this car is going to break. It could mean that the guy's overpriced. It could mean that they just have a bad track history here.
Yeah.
It could mean that we just have a gut feeling that we hate the guy this week. But with that said, my guy this week that's going to the garage is Kyle Larson at $7,200. The reason why I put him on here is his $7,200 price tag is a little appealing, and you might want to, you might think you want to roll with Larson as he qualified 9th. He looks like a guy that could run up near the front.
Yeah.
And he's been a great source of value points for you all year in DFS. Like, usually you can buy Larson on the cheap. He produces you decent points. And he's been one of those plug-and-play guys that, you're all right rostering on a weekly basis. However, here at Martinsville, he hasn't finished 2 of the 3 times he's raced here. Right? He only has 3 races on the track, and, 66% of the time he's not even finishing the race. Yeah. Right? He also doesn't have a finish better than 27th. And yet he qualified 9th. If this doesn't scream an overqualification, I have no idea what would scream an overqualification. I would much rather save money, get me a driver that's trending up as a whole with a guy like Amarola, or even buy me a guy that's even qualified even higher, that has more propensity to get laps led and fastest laps in Allmendinger, right? And they're all in the same price range. Those guys are actually cheaper than Larson.
Right.
Sign me up to save money and stay away from Larson. I just don't think that there's any way that he performs to the level he qualified at or even pays off the salary. I see a negative day in the cards for Larson.
No, I couldn't agree with you more there. Unfortunately, he's one of those guys where he doesn't really do too well at these small track types of tracks. And, with this being the smallest one on the circuit, and with only having 3 races of historical data here, and only finishing once out of those 3, and not even finishing that high, there's just no way, ifs, ands, or buts, I could stick him on my lineup and have any confidence that he's going to produce any points for me. So, sorry, Kyle, don't like you this week, but we still just want to say, hey,
huge fans.
Well for you.
Just not your track, bro.
Yeah, you need to work that out, buddy.
Yes. With that said, Lear, who's your guy that's going to the garage this week?
My guy going to the garage this week is old Rowdy Bush. He's $10,000. He's starting in the 6th position in the good old M&M Crispy Edge vehicle this week for Halloween tonight. But Kyle's historically done pretty well here, actually. In 20 starts, he's finished in the top 5 8 times, which is a 40% of his races at Martinsville. So then you're probably scratching your head, well, why are you giving us positive statistics there? Well, as of late, not so much. His last 4 races here, he started 11th, 3rd, 1st, and 8th with finishes of 5th, 15th, 14th, and 11th. So he's all started but 1 in the single digits and finished in the double digits. So, negative place differential there. So he's finished, not where he started. He's not a fan of these short tracks. His average starting position here at Martinsville is 12.2 with an average finish of 15.6. So historically, on average, he does not finish higher or even where he starts at. He finishes behind where he starts at. So at that price point, you know, and with the recent history here, just not a pick for me here at Martinsville, and just the cost mostly is the reason why I'm staying away from Kyle Busch. And other than that, you know, I know he's still in the race for the chase, so he'll probably be aggressive, but sometimes his aggressiveness gets the best of him, and you know, could put him into a situation where he gets into a wreck. So I'm just not on him this week.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And the problem for me is that all the Joe Gibbs racing cars just haven't seemed to be with it the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
They seem to be behind everyone else. And we were on the Joe Gibbs racing train for so long.
For a while, yeah.
And I huge fan. It seems to me like that team's been falling apart in like the last few weeks. And you're right. He hasn't kept his track history up here. He's falling off. And to be honest, at his $10K price tag, he's just way too expensive for what he is on this track. And plus, you always have to worry about him going crazy. And I'm just rolling with the vibe. Crispy and M&Ms are terrible, and so I'm not rolling Kyle Busch this week.
Do not accept those tonight if you're going trick or treating. Make sure you give those back. So
yeah, those are houses you should trick.
Yeah,
no.
Exactly.
It's problematic for me that the JGR cars don't seem to be up to speed really, and plus they have him priced way too high for what he is.
Yeah.
Like, there are plenty of guys.
They're pricing him based off the fact that he's still in contention for the race.
Yes, that is solely where they have him priced. It just doesn't make sense to me. But, like, whatever. With that said, I think it's time to get into our lineups for the lug nut this week. We are the only site, and this is something I'm very proud of, that gives you actual lineups that we are rolling in contests so you can see us competing against you and know that we aren't just all talk, that we actually believe in the picks that we make.
Right.
So with that said, my lineup should be there are a couple of little surprises, but nothing too crazy. I've got Jeff Gordon for all the reasons we've talked about at the 10-3 price tag, because I just agree with your analysis there, Larry. Like, he's going to have a beast week.
Yep.
I went with the other Busch, Kurt Busch, at 8,600 as my next pick. He has 2 wins on this track, and he's still throwing down for the Cup championship. He qualified 15th, which is in the middle of the pack. I know we want front runners, but I've got most front runners. He's my guy that's a little bit back. His price tag is way depressed at the 8,600.
86 is crazy.
Like, it's a steal. I
like that.
Just get on him. He's also been looking good at practice. I mean, it's your chance to buy a guy that's rough. Buy a guy that's been over 10,000 all year for 8,600.
Yep.
And if he had a terrible track history here, I would understand fading him. But he has double wins here. Like, he's won twice. So, like, I then go from there to Amarola at 5,800. Like we said, just too much value. And he's on too good of a trend. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Let it punish me. But my next pick is Truex Jr. at 8,500. He finished 3rd here in the spring and qualified 2nd on this track. As Lear and I have been pointing out, laps led and fastest laps are going to be at a premium. I'm trying to stack as much of the front of the field as possible. I love being able to play Truex Jr. up there. I literally am able to play 1, 2, 3, and 5 in the starting qualifying grid. And that brings me to my next pick, which is AJ Allmendinger at 6,100. He was running good in the spring here before a tire rub issue. Cost him a legit finish here in the spring. The Dinger qualified 3rd, has a chance to lead laps, be the fastest car. I'm just kind of like banking on those getting the points that way, and those guys offsetting any ability if they get stopped and like the pit stops don't work out. I think their laps led at the beginning of the race, and the fastest laps should make up for that. Yeah, that's why I'm. Well, dude, here my argument is it's better and it's easier to bet on that than it is to bet on somebody in the back of the field trying to figure out that there is a wreck and banking on that happening. But that's my lineup for the lug nut this week, and I
like it.
I love it. It's one of these weeks where I feel really comfortable with my lineup. Now, as you guys know, I run multiple lineups, even in NASCAR, and we'll have multiple lineups. But this is definitely one you'll be able to check out in the 5K and the 7K lug nut that we have this week. What's your lineup look like, Lear?
All right, so we'll start off with our burning rubber guys. Matt Kenseth at 9,900. Then you got Joey Logano at 10,500. I also too rolled with Eric Amarola at 5,800. He's obviously starting in the 8th spot this week. He's been running good here. His cost is a no-brainer for where he starts at. This is the most raced track actually that Amarola has been on. That in Bristol is tied for 13 attempts total. And he loves these smaller tracks. His last 3 races here, he's finished with positive place differential, so you can't go wrong with a guy of that caliber, with him being this one of his stronger tracks and most driven tracks as well on the circuit. I also rolled with Martin Truex Jr. It's crazy that we're doubling up.
I cannot. We don't talk about this beforehand. Like that is hilarious.
Yeah. So he's rolling out at 8,500. Truex led 23 laps during the spring at the STP 500. He finished 6th after starting 3rd. He is starting 2nd this week and will have a great chance to lead laps and have fastest laps. Truex is still in the hunt for the race for the chase. He will be very aggressive this week, I think. And I actually like him to take down the race this week. I have him as my winner of the Martinsville race this week.
Nice.
And my next guy is Austin Dillon, 5,900. Pretty good price for a guy of his caliber. Dillon is my place differential guy this week. He starts from the 30th spot with the lower tier drivers. His cost makes him a good plug and play here. When he's ran here, this will only actually be his only 4th start total here at Martinsville. But he seems to be qualified late here, but also always comes with a great and strong finish with great place differential. And actually his first race here in 2014 in the spring, he started 34th and finished 15th. So, and he actually, one of the races, the last race, it was due to an electrical issue where he didn't finish. But even the other race in the fall last year, 2014, he had another great place differential finish too. So I like him at that price point and where he's starting out with those lower tier guys. So, and then my final guy is Brad Keselowski. I'm really liking the Penske guys this week. They always do pretty darn well here at these smaller tracks. Keselowski comes in at 9,400, so a little bit of a price discount this week for Keselowski. He's still well within the mix for the race for the chase. He's starting in the 11th position, should move up to gain place differential, but also eventually will have the opportunity to lead some laps and have some fastest laps under the same equipment as Joey Logano, obviously. And Logano qualified first, not only here this time in the fall, but also in the springtime too. So Penske overall has a good format going on here at Martinsville. And those guys will share it together because they're both still well within the race for the chase. So he led 18 laps here in the spring. So look for another strong finish tomorrow from Keselowski. He finished second here, so in the springtime. So I look for him to have basically the same identical races he did in the spring. He started 12th, finished 2nd. Here he's starting in the 11th position, so maybe that means he wins the race. I don't know, but I think he definitely will have a top 5 finish without a doubt for sure.
Yeah, I mean, as long as he doesn't get caught up in a wreck, he's that's unpredictable. I think what's hilarious is both of those are guys that I have on other lineups. Like, I totally am in agreement with you. I think those are legit plays this week, and when you guys look at it, you'll see that those guys are spread across my lineups this week. Just a reminder, this is the last week for the chance to qualify for the live final. DraftKings is giving us our first ever NASCAR live final. It's a big deal. You get flown to Miami to compete against the other big boys of NASCAR. It's a lot of fun. Hopefully we qualify to it this week.
The 100K king of the Speedway, baby.
Dude, I'm going all after it this week. I'm spending some big money on it. Hopefully I get the seat. If not, hopefully it's one of you guys. And with that said, guys, I encourage you to support NASCAR. And if you're a fantasy football fan, check out the Ultimate Fantasy Football 3-Way to show that Lear, I, and our buddy Murr put out every week.
On Wednesdays.
Yep.
We film it Wednesdays, and it was definitely up by Thursday morning. So make sure you guys check that out. A lot of good information there, too. So.
And while you're on that, remember to like, share, favorite, and what, Lear?
Subscribe
To the YouTube channel, Facebook, and Twitter. Guys,
and definitely check out to fantasydonks.com, for your daily fantasy needs. It's a one-stop shop place where you can get all the info you need for football, NASCAR, any sport that you really like.
Basketball is fired up, hockey even. Yeah, having some fun playing those sports. And guys, we love to hear from you. If you have any comments, feel free to make them. Let us. We love interacting with all the people who watch our show. For me and for Lear, thanks for tuning in, guys.
Go Royals!
Go
tonight,
Royals!
Baby.
Yeah, we're gonna get it done tonight. Get the third win, and you guys have a good one. If we're not making money, hopefully it's you, but we really hope it's us.
Happy Halloween, everybody!
And happy Halloween!
Have a good weekend.